Welcome back to Naval Action. It's episode 83 of A Letter to the King. If you're new to the series, this is my attempt to keep us up to date with what's going on naval action wise on the PvP global server, the server that never sleeps. Let's have a look at where we were last week. If you recall, the pirates had captured and moved into the Caymans. The Brits had snuck a port on the heel of Cuba. And consolidated a great deal. The Spanish were going nuttos over here, just north of the Yucatan. All hell was breaking out in the Bahamas. The Swedes and the Danes were just consolidating, and the Americans were pushing up the coast merrily. As far as political alliances are concerned, it's much of a muchness. The Brits have grumpy monkeys arrangements with the pirates, who in turn bashed the Brits rather successfully, and indeed the Americans, the Brits and the Americans aren't really scrapping over ports at the moment, but there's an awful lot of PvP going on. And that's it really. The other nations are a bit sleepy. Now there was a patch, it was actually released as I was making last week's naval action. And the big thing of the patch is they've added 3 new nations, because that's what we needed. We needed more nations. I was only saying to myself, what does the game need? Initially I mispronounced nations as players, but it needs more nations. We can have 1 each. So we have the Russian Empire, the Kingdom of Prussia, and the Commonwealth of Poland, which makes me, I'd be a bit miffed if I was Portuguese. I'd have thought the Portuguese, maybe I think they were further down the hill, the Portuguese. Perhaps they weren't around here at all. But I don't remember much about Poland and Prussia and the Russian Empire being in the Caribbean either. So anyway, and they've also changed the map. I have to say I don't like it. I'm going to have to find a different way to get screenshots. It doesn't resolve itself particularly nicely as soon as you change the graphical doohickeys. So I will investigate that. The other thing they did, of course, is you may have noticed a couple of weeks ago that the all-important pray button had disappeared. A social experiment conducted on the naval action community just to see how many times we'd be stupid enough to push a button that didn't apparently do anything. I'm sure in many future sociology experiments, the crazy bonkers statistics of the 47,385,000 presses that gave absolutely no reward or return will be used to demonstrate the mental instability of the average gamer. Ironically, they've replaced pray with play. You now have a play button where you can gamble. And what a sorry state it is in the world where prayer has been replaced by gambling. I say that as if I haven't spent half my time sailing around gambling. And anyway, look, you get more out of it than praying, some would say. If only destitution and having to sell your ship so you can roll the dice again. It's actually based on an old naval game called Dice, I think, or something. I know, called, hang on a minute, Crowns and Anchors. Where a dice with the 4 suits of cards, an anchor and a crown would be rolled. People would gamble on the outcome, and basically the bank would win. Anyway, back on with the biffo. So it was a bit interesting this week. I noticed it was a lot quieter during the week, like a lot quieter. There were fewer free towns picked up, so this week was the slowest collection of free towns. There were less proper RVR port battles. I think there was only 4. Yes, 4 port battles, and one of those was #fake port battle. So let's have a look at those battles and see what we know about them. So firstly, Dave forgot to put a penny in the meter and lost 5 or 6 ports. So obviously couldn't afford to sustain the incredible cost of these 5 ports, probably running at about a loss of 440,000 gold a day. And when all your income is based on stealing things off unsuspecting American traders and British traders, perhaps you don't raise enough money to have such lavish estates. So Dave has gone back to Skid Row and given up his holdings. Now the Spanish never claimed to be a nation of conquest. They're a nation of running around and snotting people. So perhaps that's better for us all, really. You can focus on snotting people now. The Brits had moved into Puerto Escondido, and the pirates weren't at all happy with that. And against very little resistance, sorted the Brits out, no worries at all. And so they're back to holding the heel of Cuba now. The Brits also then had a line ship battle at Georgetown against the dirty pirates. Now, I have to tip my hat here to the pirates. They turned up with a full 25 ship fleet and even remembered a mortar brig this time, which is very unpiratey of them. Normally they come in and forget it. The Brits only had 15 ships, and 2 of them were rubbish, like frigates and stuff. And although the Brits got a complete spanking, I think 10, 11 ships got sunk. The pirates only lost 3, I think. Or it might have been, yeah, they lost 3, but then another one got captured. Anyway, 2 or 3. The Brits actually fought much better. Focus fire was much better from the Brits. They kept themselves alive much better. You got no chance, right? 25 versus 15. Especially when the 25 are the most proven force on the server. And the pirates gave the Brits a jolly good spanking. But, once again, it's pixels and it was good fun. The pirates did all the right things. But the opening of the battle was pretty good. And then the inevitable happened. 1 or 2 of the British ships got picked off at the back. Even though I think a pirate was sunk on the first pass, so that was a much improved effort from the Brits. Focus fire at its finest. This guy went down before the last ship went past him. However, the pirates snipped off a couple of boys at the back of the line, gave them a slapping and sent them to the bottom. There was one of the most spectacular first-rate explosions I've seen. One of the lads from Armed saw his mate in trouble. He was being boarded by a pesky pirate, and so he did the right thing and self-immolated right in the middle of them all, and that caused all sorts of mayhem. If that had been a full 25 on 25 and that had gone off there, that would have been a battle turner. There was pirates left with 14 crew and 110 crew. They were all sailing around in HMS Unicorns with little more than a bowsprit to show for their propulsion systems. But again, the pirates turned up in great numbers with a proper fleet. And the Brits, I don't know where people were. It wasn't a good time for the British. So it was a combination of the Aussies, who were a bit thinner on the ground than I'd like to have seen, and the Americans, who were also a bit thinner on the ground than I would have liked to have seen. There was a few lads in there for the first time, so that was, welcome to getting spanked. And we had a HMS Mortar Brig in there who had an absolute hoon of a time. This was one of our other players. He had a mortar brig in there. He had an absolute hoon of a time, banging on any pirate who sat still for more than 10 seconds. So that was quite good fun. However, the pirates now hold a couple of the Caymans, and I think it's just a little Cayman left in the middle now, which is probably unlikely to stay British if they carry on defending like that. Then there was the pirates came to Mageras. Again, this is the 2nd or 3rd week after running up the hostility, but then didn't attack it. So this is Operation #fake port battle. And I know it's piddling off a couple of blokes. We do get told by the pirates they're not coming, but they are the pirates, you know. So when your enemy says, oh yeah, you know that attack we've set up, we're not going to do it. They keep doing it, and one does feel as though we're walking into a bit of a trap. It's a trap. Anyways, the pirates didn't show up there, so we're counting that as a glorious victory to the British Empire. Now, one of the new nations. Now I'm trying out new symbols. Obviously this is the symbol for, you guessed it, the Kingdom of Prussia. So it's a big sausage because they're kind of Germans and other stuff, Eastern Germany type people. More than happy. I was thinking of a Kaiser's helmet. That could be another one for the Prussians. It's a bit hard to take the piss out of a sort of group that aren't there anymore. Anyway, so I've got a sausage right now, or it looks a bit like a willy. So a willy or a sausage or a big smile if you want, don't know. So that's what we got for the Prussians. Now the Prussians, they grabbed up 3 ports. There does seem to be... Now, the interesting thing with the three new nations is it has sort of consolidated a number of sort of lonely players into one place. But there's also a lot of sort of, how can I put this politely, pirate alts seem to be in the Prussians. Now maybe they're trying to grow the Prussians and help the server grow because they are perhaps the most generous of the nations. And so they took Georgestown. Now the British were very upset with losing Georgetown, and Georgestown as well. The king would have been most displeased. So they sent a heroic fleet who were met by bazillions of pirate screeners who seem to have formed an instant affiliation for their sausage-munching friends. However, the Brits, apart from one poor chap, slipped past the pirates and managed to kill the two pirate alts who have joined the Prussian side. None of the actual Prussians, as far as we could tell, were available for port battle. So it's all a bit of a mystery, these three nations, and will they get any? I've not seen really. I've seen a couple of players with the Polish flag. I know on the other server there was 1 billion Russians. That's no surprise really. But on this server I'm not sure if these are just going to be anything more than bloody images I have to contend with. Blurry images that I can't see very well that I have to contend with. So the Brits took Georgestown. The Swedes have continued to pick off the odd port around here, cutting deep into what would be historically considered sort of French territories. The Americans have grabbed up a couple more ports as well. But no PvP, actually, for the Americans this week. I did miss a big battle last week between the Americans and the pirates. I apologise for that. I had it written down on my notes. I had screenshots of the outcome. I even had a little bit of detail on what happened. Oh, look, I've left the thing out here. So, apologies for that. Hotspots, well, this is just bonkers around here. If you're an American captain, I feel sorry for you. This is like the little fish, medium fish, big fish. So you'll be an American captain sailing along, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and three Brits will come around the corner and go, oh, look, there's a battleship, let's go and bash it up. They bash it up. They come out of that battle, and oh my God, there's 5 Americans, and they bash the 3 Brits up, and then they head south, and oh my God, there's 11 pirates, and all of they die. So it's little fish, it's whoever's got the biggest fleet on the water at that time of day sort of has the final word. In these areas around here and around this neck of the woods, it's smaller bands, quite often solo chaps, going around causing merry hell in their super crazy bonkers fast ships, predominantly, with the occasional marauding band of merry fellows causing trouble. So they're the hotspots if you're looking for a bit of open world PvP. I really suggest this is a great fun area around here. Personally, I don't like to pick on the traders because, you know, they're just trading. Unless they're in 3 Indiamans, then you've got to go for that. That could be the jackpot. But any battleship in these areas, any warship in these areas for me is free game. I think around these areas, the solo operators, they do like to knock over the odd trader. You know, you have to begin the circle of hate somewhere. So that's where the hotspots are. Where will the action be this week? Well, it's been bloody quiet, so it's interesting. You'd have thought the pirates would like to make that a nice little string of black. Hashtag fake port battle, undoubtedly. There might be something around Cuba. There might be something around Great Corn. But other than that, the Bahamas is probably where it's at. People love these little shallow waters. They're sort of free fun to some extent. So that's where I suspect, if there will be PvP activity, that's where I guess it would be. Naval Action Legends. Well, week 5 of testing completed. The servers were up and down a bit like a bride's nightie, so I didn't get as much time on it as I wanted. But they've made quite a few changes. They were testing out the weather. They had 3 types of weather. Foggy and misty, rainy, and really rainy with lightning, as far as I could tell. The seas got gradually rougher as you went up those 3 different types of weather, and they certainly have an effect on eating your cannonballs, as it were, as the waves can sort of obscure your shot on the opponent's hull. But the other thing, of course, they can do is they can lift your opponent's boat high into the water and let you get a bajillion leaks into it. Now, in this week's post of what was in week's 5 testing cycle, which was predominantly weather and some changes to the way you earn XP for getting modules and stuff, They did say that maybe next week or the week after, they might open it all up so that everybody can test. So soon, this will be not. You won't need a key. I don't know if it's going to be everybody in the world or just everybody with naval action. We'll see. It's certainly worth a go. It takes between 30 and 40 minutes for a battle. If my trial's in there, I'm up to, what am I sailing around in now? I'm almost out of my renommee and into my frigate, because I've probably only got half a dozen games in this weekend. Open world duties and a knackered old server. The problem for me is that if the server goes down in my daytime, all the Russians are asleep, so there's no one to fix it. And then typically when they bring it back up, I'm in bed having a bit of a kip. Certainly worth a go. It is good fun. It's instant biffo. It's much more fun, obviously, when you've got players in there. And when they do open it all up for everyone to have a bash, that might be really good fun, because, 6v6 PvP is simply good fun, or whatever the numbers will be. I noticed they weren't mix and matching the shallow water ships with the frigates this week. They seem to go into different queues, so that helped those other guys. I also noticed that the XP rewards were much toned down. I had one battle where I had 4 kills and 1 assist. That's only one ship I didn't get a mark on. I only got about the equivalent of 1/10 of my way towards the next ship as a reward for that. I would have probably got 1/5 of the way there the previous week, so they've toned that down. I suspect that's so they can give you a reason to have premium, but we'll see. But great fun, great fun. Now the tally of splinters, sail and blood. The Brits are up to 81 ports. They picked up 6. They get the victory mark this week. The Pirates did well. They picked up 5. The Americans picked up 4. The Danes picked up. The Spanish collapsed because they can't afford to pay their bills. The Swedes carried on consolidating. The French and the Dutch are having a sleep. And a new entry is the Kingdom of Prussia. And I've come up with these 2 symbols for the Ruskies and the Poles. Feel free to give me some better ideas other than a sausage, a plumber's plunger, and I believe this is known as the breast of the Kremlin, or something along those lines, the ice cream cone of the Kremlin. So this is where we are as far as these 3 nations. These 2 haven't done anything yet. I hope they don't, because I haven't got any room on my page. I'm going to have to shrink everything. That'll be a pain in the ass. And as far as clans are concerned, so the best looking clan on the server, Armed, is now up to 27 ports. They've actually span off a sister clan called Armed without an E, which is where our sort of players in the lower ranks can play together and level together and that sort of stuff. So if you see Armed without an E, that's why. Black are up to 23. GA are up to 17. Our Chinese friends, I haven't moved my symbols around for the Chinese. I forgot to do that again. For the Danes, these are the Danes. There you go. Look, it's there. It's just buggered up. Is 14, and the American Mars are on 13. Now, just a little bit of general Jeheil news. I have been forced by the lovely Mrs. J to go on holiday for 2 weeks, and I'm not allowed to take my computer with me. So this means there'll be no letter to the King for the following 2 weeks, and my return, I think I return on the day I normally make it, so that would be the 3rd week. I'll have to check my diary. So it might be 2.5 weeks until the next update is, and depending on when I get back, if I sort of get back the same day as I normally make it, then there's no point in me doing an update, because I won't know what's happened. I'd probably need to watch someone else's update. So I'll be away for a couple of weeks visiting North Korea with Mrs. J, so that should be good fun. It's a cheap holiday. I'm not quite sure why, but apparently it's very nice. BYO food. So I'll be back in 2 weeks, rested or arrested, depending on how it goes. And I'll see you then. So until then, that's me signing off. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and I'll see you on the oceans, and I'll catch you.